Welcome back. This is Aaron and Miss Thomas from Saguaro Culinary. Today we're going to be learning to make an Italian cookie. It is called biscotti, okay? So you break it down, the bis means two, cotti means baked, so it means twice baked. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to be twice baking a cookie a couple times just to get it that nice crispy, all right? Okay, so let's go over ingredients and then we'll go over equipment today. Okay, so we're going to need all-purpose flour today. Either vanilla flavoring or almond extract. I really like the almond extract. A lot of these recipes call for something called anise, and it tastes like black licorice. I don't prefer that flavor, so today I'm just going to do straight almond extract, but the vanilla works great. You can add a couple other flavors. We'll go over that later in class, okay? A little bit of salt, a little bit of vegetable oil, baking powder, white sugar, eggs, and if you want to do toppings or stuff in there, that's absolutely fine. For one of these, I'll put some almonds on it. You can do chocolate, you can do nuts, you can do whatever you want, honestly. But we'll go over that when we start making out the dough. So for equipment, we're going to need a couple different size bowls, like 2 medium-sized bowls, some different size measuring cups, a whisk, a big spoon. I'm going to use a bench scraper today, and then we're going to need a couple, let's come over here. So we're going to need a couple cookie sheets with some parchment paper on it. If you have larger ones, you can do it all on one. That's absolutely fine. So it's just however you guys want to do it. I'm going to break it down into 2 smaller today. Okay, so let's get started. So number one, so this is going to be our wet ingredient bowl, okay? So we're going to do 3 eggs. So 1 egg, 2 eggs. And I really like this recipe. It's been coming out really good, and hopefully you guys like it too. Almond extract may seem like something you're like, oh, I don't know where to get that. Literally, you can get this from Safeway for $4. It's nothing. Okay, so now we're gonna add our vegetable oil, 1/2 cup. Okay. Okay. 1/2 cup right in there. Now we're going to add our almond extract. So this actually calls for a lot. So it's about a tablespoon, which is a decent sized amount, but it's going to flavor all this dough and it gives it a really good flavor, okay? So 1 tablespoon right in there. Okay. And now we're going to need a little bit of sugar. 1 cup of straight white sugar, okay? I'm not 100% sure about using brown sugar, so try, if you have white sugar, just use this, okay? So 1 cup right in. Okay, so this is all of our wet ingredients, okay? So what we're gonna do is whisk this up really good. And we're just gonna make sure everything's incorporated. The sugar's not really gonna dissolve or anything, you just want it in there. So I'm getting that really strong almond smell out of this. Smells like maraschino cherries. Okay, so we're just gonna keep whisking this up. And this will just take a minute. You're not trying to beat the eggs, you're not trying to do anything like this, you just want a nice, it almost looks like a lemon meringue pie filling at this point. Okay. So I just want you guys to be able to see that. So I'm happy with that. All the sugar's off the bottom of the bowl. Basically, you just want to get everything off the bowl. Okay, so that's our wet ingredients. We're just gonna leave that right here for right now, and then we're gonna start moving on to our dry ingredients, okay? So for dry ingredients, this is just regular all-purpose flour. I'm not going to sift this today. This is going to be a very dense dough anyway, so I don't need to sift it or anything. So let's just. So it's going to be 3 1/4 cup. 1, 2, 3. Sometimes flour gets everywhere. That's okay. I'm going to use that to roll out the dough anyway. So that's okay if we make a little bit of a mess over here. Hit pause for a second. What? You tell me when you're ready. Okay, so we'll take our little thing and we'll put it out here. So in this bowl, I got 3 1/4 cups of flour, okay? To this, I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of salt, maybe even a little less, just enough to get a little bit of that flavor. So this recipe doesn't have any butter or anything in it, so we control how much salt's going in there. So just about a teaspoon. And then I need 1 tablespoon, 1 big tablespoon of baking powder. This is gonna help give the dough a good rise. So you'll see what I mean when we start to cook this. So I want 1 level tablespoon right in there. Okay? Let me grab a whisk and whisk this up. Since we're not sifting it, I'm going to whisk this just make sure everything gets incorporated, okay? If you're not sifting your flour ingredients, anytime you have a bowl of dry ingredients like this, just give it a whisk, a fork, anything. Just get everything spread evenly throughout, okay? That's all you want to do. You just, as you're mixing stuff, sometimes the baking powder doesn't get everywhere and you just get a giant bite of baking powder and it's just, that's not what you want. Like, people will get real put off by that. And all that is just basic laziness of you not whisking the baking powder into it. So you just want to make sure everything's where it should be. I want everything to be very spread out. Okay, so I'm going to use this area to do some rolling of the dough. So I'm going to start clearing some area. I'm going to leave my flour right here because I'm going to use it to roll it out. Let me get my scoops, all that stuff out of the way. So as you guys can see, this is a real basic recipe. The thing that makes this one different is when we bake it, and I'll show you, okay? Okay. So normally I would tell you guys to do the wet into the dry. We're going to reverse that today. Okay, I'm going to do the dry into the wet just so I can do it half and half basically. Okay, so I'm going to put about half this flour right in the bowl with the egg mixture, okay? So I'm only gonna like spoon this around for a little bit and then I'm actually gonna work with my hands on this one. I just want to get the flour incorporated. Guys, do not overwork this dough. The more you work flour in a mixture like this, the more gluten you create. Gluten is what makes it chewy, like pizza dough. In baked goods, you don't want that. So you can see how my flour is just basically getting right in there. So I'm just gonna add the rest. Okay. Okay, and I'm just gonna start splitting it out. And then when this starts to come together, I'm just gonna yank it out with my hands and start rolling it that way, okay? So get all the flour off the sides, just get it down into there. Just be gentle with it. You don't need to whoop this, you don't need anything crazy with it. So, but you can see how my dough is starting to come together like that, how it's firming. So I'm just gonna keep doing it for a little bit more. Get all this. And so now I'm just gonna feel the dough. Yep, that's getting to where I want it to be, okay? Okay, so at this point, I'm gonna get my spoon out of the way. All I'm gonna do is take my dough, get it all together, flatten it a little bit, get a little bit of flour in there if it's sticking. Okay, I'm gonna get it up, and I'm gonna get it out of this bowl, okay? Right up and out. I feel like when you're working with dough, if you use a spoon the whole time, you don't get a good feel for what the dough is actually feeling like. Dough is one of those things I really like working with my hands, so I can actually feel what it's like. Dough is a lot of feel. It's not an exact science. It's just how it feels. So, you know, some things are different. Sometimes flour is different. So basically, all I want to do is start pressing it down, seeing if it sticks. I'm going to add a little bit more flour, not a lot. So I'm going to start turning a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to keep working with the dough a little bit. So you can see how it's sticking down here at the bottom. I'm going to plop that right back in. I'm going to get a little more flour. Okay. So I'm just going to keep working this. And remember, I'm not trying to incorporate, or I'm not trying to like really mess with this dough. I'm just trying to get it together. Okay, a little more flour. Perfect. Keep pressing it down. And this will take a minute or two just to get your dough together. And then when it's together, you'll know. Don't go by what the dough on your hand feels like. It's not real dough. It's dough that hasn't been worked, basically. It's just stuck on your hand. So if you're like, oh, it's sticking to my hands, yeah, of course it's sticking to your hands because the dough isn't going anywhere or doing anything. So you guys can actually see how my flour is getting incorporated and it's coming together at this point. So that looks really good at this point. So I'm just going to work it a little bit more flour right on the sides here. Okay. So at this point, I'm just going to roll my hands to get the dough off. I'll wash my hands in a second, but I just want to be able to feel this dough without this stuff on there. Okay. So yeah, this feels really good like this. So I want you guys to see on video if there's a little bit of a sticky part, just a little bit of flour on this. This isn't going to be a sticky dough. This is going to be a very dense dough. So you just want to keep pressing down. Pressing down. Okay, so this dough is excellent where it's at. So all I'm going to start doing at this point because I'm gonna clear a little space because I don't want any more flour or anything in my dough. So I'm just gonna clear a little area. I'm just gonna really lightly flour that again, just so nothing sticks. I'm gonna put my dough down, and I'm gonna form it into about half of a football, like a football cut down the middle, okay? So I'll give you, if you wanna work with this amount of dough, that's your call. I like to break this up into a little bit smaller sections, just so we can do it like that. So at this point, I want my sheet pans ready to go, okay? So those are ready to go. And all I wanna do is I wanna cut this right down the middle into 2 equal sections. Okay, so there we go. That's right in half. I'm gonna grab one of my sheet pans. I'm gonna lightly flour the sheet pan, okay? I just wanna make sure it doesn't stick when it goes in the oven, okay? All right, so I'm gonna take one of these, get it up, and just press it. Put it down on the cut side like it looks like a mohawk for the thing. Okay, so we're gonna bring this over, and then all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna press this down. I want it to be about 1/2 inch thick, which is about from your fingertip to that first knuckle. So that's what I'm looking for. Okay. If it sticks to your hands, just put a little bit of flour on there. Not a lot. We don't want to add a lot more flour to it at this point. We just don't want it sticking. So my goal is to create like an oblong sort of log, and you'll see why we do this when it goes in the oven after we start cutting it a little bit. Okay. Okay, so that's one. And then when it goes in the oven, this is going to start to rise. So that's one. So for the second one, I'm going to do something a little bit different just to show you guys what it'll look like. Okay, so I'm going to do the exact same thing. A little bit of flour. I'm just going to press it down. This recipe should make you about 24 pieces of biscotti, depending on how thick or thin you cut it. Okay, so I'm just going to press it down. Okay, so sometimes you'll see biscotti and it'll have nuts in it. Okay, so I don't like to add them into the dough. I feel like it doesn't spread out. I want to control this. So I have sliced almonds right here, and I'm just going to sort of spread them over the top like this, and then I'm going to press them down into the dough. We're going to be turning this dough a couple times, so I don't want the almonds to go anywhere. You don't need to pre-cook your almonds, and they'll toast in the oven. You just don't want the almonds to get burnt as everything's cooking, so use raw almonds, okay? And we're just going to press it right down. Okay, get some of the extras out. Do a little bit more. I've got some bare spots there. Okay, so these are my 2 prepped biscottis. Okay, so that's what these look like. Okay, we're gonna go over to the oven. I have an oven that's at 375 that's been preheating. So let me give you guys a quick explanation of what we're gonna do before it goes in the oven. I'm not trying to cook these all the way through. All I'm trying to do at this point is toast them enough where they're solid and I can slice them into slices and then finish cooking them. So let me get these in the oven for about 10 minutes to start, and we'll see how they're doing. And then we'll cut them and I'll show you the rest of the way, okay guys? All right. Welcome back guys. So this has been about 10 minutes in the oven, and you can see how they are beautiful and golden brown. I pulled these out and let these cool for about 5 minutes because we're going to start cutting into them. They may look done, but I promise you these are still going to be doughy in the middle, and that's okay because we're going to chop them up and cook them a different way too. Okay, so be very careful as make sure you're using oven mitts. Don't use rags, use the actual oven mitts. I'm sure you got them. So let's do one at a time. So we'll start with this, just the basic one. Okay, so all I need at this point is a cutting board, serrated knife for a pizza cutter, spatula, and some tongs. So we'll go over why. All right, so all I'm gonna do is pick this up. This should come right off the wax paper, no problem, okay? Just like that. I'm gonna turn it so it faces me lengthwise like this. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do something called cutting on the bias today, guys. All that means is, so if I was to cut it like this, it would just be straight cuts, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn this 45 degrees so it's diagonal with my board, but I'm still gonna cut straight. So it's gonna create little diagonal cuts. It'll give me a little more surface area, plus it'll look better. So I'm just gonna get this one right off. I don't need the end piece, so get rid of that. So for the size of the slice, it really depends on you. I like thinner slices. So I'm just gonna do some nice thin slices. So this is still a little warm, so just be careful, guys, that you don't break the biscotti. Okay. And you just wanna cut this all the way through, all the way down. And I mean, if your biscotti breaks, it's not the end of the world. It's still gonna taste really good. So as I'm cutting through it, I can actually feel that it's still doughy in the middle, but that's okay. It's still gonna get cooked for about another 10 minutes anyway. Okay. The almond one we're gonna cut, the almonds being on top makes the cutting a little bit more difficult, so you just gotta be a little more careful. Okay. And let's just get this end piece off. Okay, so you guys can physically see how it's still doughy in the middle. So all I want to do is, so that same cookie sheet I took it off of, all I want to do is take my little slices and put them cut side down right now. So this is all I'm going to do. This is going to go back into the oven for about 5 minutes so it can toast. I'm going to bring it back out. I'm going to flip them and toast them again on the other side so they're completely done. And then we're going to let them cool. And that's basically our biscotti at this point, okay? These look good. Okay. So you should be able to fit all the biscotti back on the sheet pan. And then if so, like I said, if you do one huge log, it's just gonna take up more room. This is where I like working in little sections. Okay. So here's one. Okay, we're gonna get this one back in the oven, and then we'll work on the almond one. Okay. So you don't need any oil, any butter, anything on top. It's just gonna go right back in the oven. Okay. So we're gonna cut the almond one, and then by the time that's done, we'll probably check on those and give them a flip, okay? So you can either eat these pieces or put them off the side right now. Okay, so let's work on our almond. So same thing as before. Just gonna put them right back on get our spatula and put it right on our cutting board. And so guys, I am serious. Let these cool a little bit. If you start trying to cut these right when they come out of the oven, it's just gonna break apart, okay? And I mean, it's fine, it's just not what you want. So we're just gonna give it a cut. So you can actually see how the almonds toasted in the oven. See how they're all browned up? If I was to toast my almonds beforehand, these would be burned at this point. So just put in raw almonds. Same with walnuts, same with any other nuts you use, okay? And so after these are done, you guys can actually, right before you serve, you can melt some chocolate and just drizzle chocolate over the top. You can do caramel. These are actually best served. Wait a day, let them cool down, and just have them with a cup of coffee. I mean, they're going to be really almost biscuit-like. It's going to be like a shortbread where you can, so you can dip it in coffee and it'll soak up some of that thing. It's like the Italian version of a donut, honestly. Okay. There. And you can see how the almonds stay on. That's why we pressed it into the dough. The smell is great, guys. It smells like almonds. Okay, I'm gonna get my. So be careful. These sheet pans are still hot. So it almost looks like garlic bread, but it's a little biscuit cookie. Okay, those need a little bit more time. Okay, so we'll check on these in about 5 minutes, guys. Okay, guys, so our biscotti has toasted on both sides, so let's take a peek, okay? All right. So that looks beautiful. Okay, you just want that nice golden brown. I'm not trying to cook it to the end of the earth. I'm just trying to get it done. So let me put it on this pan, and then we'll. So guys, you can eat these right away. They're better if you let them cool down. So this is our biscotti. So these are great for the holidays. They're great for entertaining guests if you want to wrap them up and you can give them to people as a present. So it actually makes a decent amount. I mean, it's a super easy, super fun recipe. And they taste really good, honestly. So that is one more. So guys, that is our biscotti. Okay? I really hope you enjoyed this lesson, and we'll do some more, okay? Thanks, guys.